But
when you talk about loving homes, I don't think it's as simple as you had a loving home, you didn't. I think there's a wide spectrum of homes.
Right.
So I grew up in a home where I would say I knew mom and dad loved me, but dad was more that authoritarian man who had the final word. So it was a little bit of a, even though we would be a Christian family,
Yeah.
they taught me to love God, to know
Yeah.
God. My father had come from a very chauvinistic maybe background, so he was much more over my mom instead of together. So some of this I had to learn coming
From
into a
him.
marriage
Yeah,
because in our home we were not encouraged to express our emotions.
Yeah.
If dad said do it, we did it. You didn't say, I don't really want to,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Where Kent, when we started dating, was always saying, well, how do you feel? What
Yeah.
do you think? And
Exactly.
sometimes I said, I don't know what I think. I wasn't really in touch
Yeah.
with my own
She's kind of mad at
emotions.
me. What if I don't
or
feel
feelings.
something? How do I have to feel
Because
something?
I hadn't been given permission to do that, even in a home that I would consider loving. So you have different levels, I think, of health. And I would say there were levels in my home that were not healthy at all, that I had to kind of grow into in a marriage because it wasn't modeled for me.
So like we had a conflict one time. We were engaged and I wanted her to drop the car off and I was going to have this wedding present
my
surprise.
vehicle, he was going to do something to fix it up for me.
I was going to paint it and detail it for the wedding present, but she didn't drop it off. She had her sister and her sister didn't drop it off. And so it didn't get to the mechanic and it destroyed my plan for
His
this.
wonderful surprise
I had
has
this
been-
wedding gift plan that was just going to be great. And she didn't do what I asked, and it wasn't going to happen, and so it was bad. I was not happy. We were on phones.
I was in another room back in the day when you didn't
Yeah.
have cell phones. It was so I'm on
So,
another line. He's on
I
a
am
line.
not happy.
And I can hear in his voice he is unhappy that my sister didn't deliver the truck. And I'm here going, oh, he's mad. And I know what happened when Dad gets mad. My
Yeah.
dad.
Yeah.
Everybody just kind of gets quiet.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So
whatever.
I'm mad.
Yeah.
Or
and
defend
And I
yourself.
walk into the room, and she goes, I didn't know that. She didn't know. And
I
you know, my
started
sister,
defending
and her hands are
myself.
like this, and
Yeah.
she's going,
I'm gonna
and
do
I'm just
everything.
standing there looking at this woman who's going, and I didn't know this, and I'm like, what are
It's
you
not
doing?
my fault, right? I was trying to
And I'm
say,
going, what are you
I
doing?
didn't.
She goes, well, I know you're upset. I go, yeah, so let's talk about it. I said, well, nobody's attacking here. I just want to talk this through to put it behind us. She's like, well, in my family, I'd get attacked. I go,
Yeah.
how's that work for you? Really bad. I go, well, we don't do that in my family. We actually sit down and talk it over because I want to get past this because I love you and I'm just not happy with what happened to the car. And she's like, the beautiful thing about Jennet, she's like, okay, teach me.
I did want to get better at that. Yes.
My way doesn't work. Can you help me? I'm like, yeah, let's do that. And we talk through, we talk things through. We don't scream and yell and swear, and that doesn't, then I'm hurting the person I love. I said, and we talked it through, and I didn't know. I go, okay, find another gift for wedding, I think we got a piano.
Maybe that's what we're going to say.
But the humility in her saying, yeah, my family pattern doesn't work very well, and she learned. I think you're better at it than I am now.
See, the wonderful marriage just to make you become a better person, right?
It's
Yes.
so remarkable. I have one question to follow up with how you grew up. How did you know yourself? How could you
Yeah.
be that at 26 when he met you? You knew yourself, but to have that environment.
Yeah, that's an interesting almost dichotomy. Like, how does that work? I do think that because my parents loved God and they loved His Word and they showed me that, I, at a young age, realized God was my Heavenly Father and He loved me unconditionally. And I was around people that probably made up for some of my dad's harshness. So I saw people who loved and followed God being, more loving and caring, and I realized I had been created by Him. He had plans for my life, and so I was around positive people. I think if my dad had been the only factor in my life, I would have struggled a lot with never good enough or never quite, so that was sort of, you did everything excellently or it was judged, but yeah, I would say I did have a sense of myself where with Kent I was like, okay, I don't want to have to change to make him love me. So maybe this isn't going to work. So probably God and other people helped build that
Your
in
mom.
me. My mom was very affectionate and very affirming. So she, yes, would have been a big help in that.
Yeah.
It can happen, even though you're not in the perfect family. Yeah.
That's remarkable. So what would you attribute all yours to? Is it your family, or was it your teachings, your?
Well, my family was kind of simple in the sense that my dad was an accountant. So I know you're in finance, right?
Yes.
And my dad was an accountant at the Minneapolis Star and Tribune, a newspaper, for the same job. He was just one of those, you don't find many men like him, just kind of a Walter Mitty, if you know what that term is. Simple
Faithful,
accountant, the pencil
always
over his ear, the
responsible.
plastic thing in his pocket with all the automatic pens, you know. I mean, he just was a very faithful, simple, stable, smart. When I say simple, I mean smart, but he loved God and he loved my mom. He was a good dad. And so I think I grew up in an incredibly secure home where we were in the same house my entire life. Life was very secure. We didn't have a lot of money, but nor were we ever poor. We always ate, we had a home, played a lot of athletics. I was a basketball player. And so life was very happy and secure for me. I think that's in talking about marriage. I thought, I've seen a good marriage. I realize there aren't many of them. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I came from a healthy home, and when I studied business, I was going to be a businessman, and went away, traveled Europe, and as I was traveling, I thought, there's more to me than business. It just didn't excite me. I got offered a job in business and went, that's not me. It's funny, after I studied it all those years, then you go, and I realized that I could help marriages. I thought, I come from a family that works, and I realize how few people have experienced healthy homes. Mm-hmm. And my parents aren't rock stars. They're just normal, working people. But they were healthy and loving, and I thought, maybe I could help some couples and help some families in their marriages. And so that took me into marriage and family counseling, which trained me in counseling. But I didn't go that route really either. I still use those skills.
He's been my personal counselor for 37 years now, and it's worked out really good. I don't have to pay him.
So so Jennet, you make Jennet become an even better person, and what does she give to you?
A lot.
What's she better for you and make you become a better person?
I realize that I thrive in, probably everybody does, but I thrive in a situation without criticism, with support, with affirmation. That just makes me thrive, do well, if you don't know the word thrive. I just do well with somebody who's on my team.
Yes.
And Jennet has supported me. I'm a risk taker. In the church, you'd call it a person of faith, but I take risks. My dad was not. He'd take no risks, like not zero, accountant. He had to have it all calculated. But because of that security, I'm just kind of the guy that goes, we can do that. I don't know how we can do that. We can go that. And I step out and jump. And my dad looks at me and goes, how are you going to pay for that? How's that going to work? And I go, God will take care of us. We'll be okay. And he's like, okay. You know, he kind of enjoys my insanity.
Yeah, because he never have that.
He would never do that. But I do well when I know there's a secure base to jump from. And Jennet gives me incredible security, incredible friendship that I know I can jump out and I can fail. And I know that I'll come home and she'll go, we'll get him next time.
This is a God that want a man. First, God have the first man, and then you're too lonely. They give you another team for kind of perfect for them, huh? Perfect.
She does well with that. Where I've had times where I've jumped out in faith and fallen flat on my face. It hasn't worked the way I wanted. I think of a time we were buying a mission center for about $500,000. And we had seen about all the money come in that was going to come in.
Because we've asked everybody we know to donate.
And
then where do you go?
And we owed $316,000, and we had like 6 months to see it come in, 316,000, and there was nobody. We're living in a developing country. There's no money in the country. We had no money. I didn't have a salary for 27 years. So we lived by support for 27 years. And to me, that was incredible. And this one lady showed up and said she owned the oil company. I met her randomly, and she said, I'll pay the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I thought,
So on that promise of word, we kind of counted on that.
Yes.
and I looked her up, I Googled her, and she owned like 4 different oil companies around the world. Okay, so she's a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
And she's going to pay this $316,000. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, God has provided.
Yes.
This is miracle. And then she never paid.
So in the end, it fell through.
So
and
at the-
that was even closer to the time that we either had to pay or lose everything.
So she called me one day and she said,
She kind of pay or what? She changed her mind.
what?
She changed her mind. Why she changed her mind?
Did she change her mind?
She
or
changed
what
her,
happened?
yeah.
She changed her mind.
She had some business deals go south and something didn't work, and she called and said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to pay.
This happen all the time, huh?
Yeah, and I'm like, I was kind, oh yes, of course, and well, thank you so much. I said
Yeah.
all the nice things,
Of course.
and I hang up the phone and
They
just
go like,
buried my head
I know.
on the desk and went, I am so screwed. I am.
Because we're really close to the deadline now.
Yeah.
And
And
I-
Ken's been
we're-
telling everyone we've got this miracle provision.
And
Yes.
my team is living in the house, and we've been rebuilding the house, and we have all these teams coming for this house, and there's no loan, and there's no money.
Oh, wow.
And I just dropped my head and I said, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I mean, I hung up the phone and I'm like, oh, honey, we are in so much trouble.
Yeah.
And my sweet
Can't
wife
even
turns
imagine.
to me and she says, God told us that place is ours. Has God changed? God hasn't changed. Watch what God will do. And I go, who are you?
Well, and I said, if we go down looking like
Yeah.
fools, we'll be fools for Jesus. I mean, we took a risk, and we'll do this together.
Yeah, and she also said,
Let's
if we
be
go
big
down,
fools.
we'll go down together. And I'm like,
Wow. This is another lesson. So when man go down, woman usually get yelling.
yeah, like,
and then
what
the
do you
person-
think? I mean, I could
And so
hear,
then
I
we
could
go
hear in
down
my
together.
mind, what are you thinking? Didn't you know? I told you that would never work. All those things. She didn't say any of that. She said, we'll go down together. If we're going to be fools, let's be big fools.
But one thing I do have to add is we didn't make big decisions like that without being in agreement. So we
Yes.
both felt like God
Yes.
had told us.
Yes.
So it wasn't like my turn to now say, what did you do? I could be as much to blame for trusting this woman. I said, we believe God's giving us this property. If this woman fails, God can do it another way, right? So, I mean, it wasn't like he had made a decision without me. I'd been a part of it.
Yeah.
And that, we
We don't
always
make
wanted-
big decisions alone.
That's so wonderful you said that, because in the Bible, the first man and woman, they eat the apples, and then as soon later the God asked them, and they kind of complain each other, right?
was her.
And you did a
The
better
blame game,
job.
yeah.
You did a better job.
Well, hopefully we
good
learned
for-
something from
yeah.
their mistakes.
Yes,
And-
absolutely.
Just to finish that quick story, I just put it out there. Okay, this is where we're at. Let's watch what God will do. And we saw people and money come in from people we've never met from all over the world. Something went viral, and somebody put something out on the internet, and we started seeing. I'd open the mail. I go
Little
$1,000,
people, the little people,
$500,
not the big rich people,
all
the
these
little people
little
giving.
$20. Somebody sold their cell phone, and somebody sold brownies, and we just watched this. All of a sudden, this thing. I did nothing. I just watched it happen, and every time I opened my email, we had a couple more $1,000 coming from other people, and we paid off the $316,000 in 6 months.
That's how God is.
And I was like, how did that happen?
Your
Yeah.
God believe.
And so my faith as a businessman, money was tough. I just couldn't understand it, and my faith grew a lot watching. Although I thought we'd failed.
I kind of feel like, don't you think that's kind of like a devil teasing you? Said devil
Oh.
maybe talk to God. So this couple going to broke up. That's we just throw this problem there, see what they deal.
But instead of breaking up, I loved her more.
You love even more, right? You passed that test.
Well, that's a good perspective
And
because like a
love.
lot of people in that state, how would they have responded and reacted, right?
Yeah.
So that is,
What a good example, huh?
this is, what's God's plan for a marriage?
Yeah.
Well, that's a big question.
It's kind of already answered, I feel like. So,
Well, there's a partnership. I think it's not a man. I look at relationship as being a partnership. I do think God in a home calls a man to be the head of the home. But the moment you say head, people twitch because they see head as dominating. And I think where I understand what we speak about the man being the head of the home, it means I'm responsible. So if we're in bed and something goes thump in the house, I don't go check it out, honey. I think most women would go, don't be a wimp. You're the man. You're supposed to protect me.
right.
And so if something, we've been robbed in our home in Dominican Republic multiple times. Something happens, I grab the baseball bat. I'm called to protect her, not to dominate, to protect. I think I'm called to make sure there's food in the house. I think I have a responsibility to care for my children and to.
So responsibility is a key
So to
word.
me, I'm responsible. That doesn't mean we don't both work. That doesn't mean we both. I do dishes. We have different roles just with our skills. She's a far better cook than I am, so she cooks more than I do.
But you can cook.
But I can
Okay,
cook,
yeah.
and when she cooks, I tend to do the dishes. Why? To give her a break, and we have a partnership. My mother would speak of this. I think her advice was solid. She said, a good marriage is like a championship skating couple. If you watch on TV the skating couples, they just have such a flow and a beauty, and there's such a trust between them. And you say, who's leading that? You go, I don't know. They have a partnership, and so we take turns serving each other.
I learned lessons here. When I go home tonight, I'm going
You'll hopefully be a better woman to you, man.
I don't cook. I cook really bad. My husband cook and he do the dishes and he do everything. And sometimes he just feel like I just feel like a single man with like 4 children. So well, I kind of lay everything, but
We like to say that our only competition should be who can serve the other more. Our competition, we should be trying to serve the others. And sometimes it's just a little thing. Do you understand that?
Yes.
That I think like in the morning, we get up about 6 o'clock. Whoever gets up first.
Makes the coffee. So he'll make me Dominican coffee. It's a cappuccino to die for.
Wow.
He makes that really good.
Wow.
So a
We have a
lot of
little
times
break
he'll
on the
make the
stove.
morning coffee and come wake me up with morning coffee. So that's serving me. So then.
And that's
you
just a
know,
little
how
thing,
do
a
we
coffee.
serve
And
each
it's
other?
little, but it's consideration to love the other person and serve them. And if she wakes up first, she makes me coffee. We don't, one thing I learned not to take score, like I'll do this for you if you do this for me. We don't like those. Like, well, you owe me this because
Yeah.
I did that. Because there is not fairness. Life isn't fair. And if somebody's sick, life isn't fair. So we try not to even think about fairness. We just try to love each other.
Yeah.
It sounds like your marriage is built on unconditional love.
Yeah, very much so.
Completely.
Good term.
Yeah.
And we fail and we cry and we, but most of our pain, I told my children, I have 3 sons, we have 3 sons, great young men. But I told them, don't rescue in marriage. Rescue is like there's somebody who's all broken and in need and I'm going to save you. And I go, don't do that.
If you marry them to make their life better, no. We just don't
We made each
rescue
other's lives better,
someone.
So now you know what I think? Now you guys talk about this. I think about, I have 2 Peking ducks. And now I think about them. They always together. They're going to be 3 years old now. They always together.
Really?
So the male always protect Rose and Sally. They always like a natural. but the teacher already there.
Yeah.
And I never see this.
And so if you go to pick on one, I bet the male will not.
Oh yeah, and also, so rows in the water on the lake, and either other ducks, even like a girl duck, they go through here and very far. He kind of chest go, leave my woman away like
That's
that.
good.
You know, they're always together. It's just so good.
Yeah.
I think a woman wants to know they're safe.
Yes.
你看这。